Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys are doing well and your week is off to a great start. This is going to be a little bit of a sneak peek at the incoming new moon in Sagittarius, which I'm titling this video, Dare to Dream. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click the bell button below so you're alerted as to when we have new videos coming out on the channel. Let me know how you're feeling with these energies. I'm very excited to take a look at this new moon because I feel like it has a lot of optimism. There's a lot of good stuff that's kind of going on with this particular lunation. As many of you guys know, we have a new moon roughly every 28 days. Every month we see this new cycle begin, and we're going to be having the next new moon in Sagittarius on December 12th, 2023. It'll be taking place at 3:32 p.m. Pacific time, 6:32 p.m. Eastern time. So make a note of that. Obviously, I know some of you guys are in different time zones. And it'll be coming in at 20 degrees. So if you're a Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising, or personal placement from 18 to 22 degrees, you're going to be impacted by this particular lunation the most. And I'm going to jump right into it by telling you guys that this new moon is all about taking chances. It's all about making changes. Now we see the sun and the moon come together, okay? That's the conjunction which creates this new lunation, which is going to be kind of in the mix for 28 days until we have the next new moon. And it can take up to 6 months for this to fully manifest and become a full moon, which we will see in the spring of 2024. Now, what I like about this particular degree, I think, is partially the Sabian symbol. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll look at the numerology as well. But we've got this here. If you guys have the Sabian symbol book, this is going to be page 295. And if you want to pick it up, check out my book list below. You guys can click the link in the description. There's a link that says my Amazon book page. I have all kinds of recommendations there. All right, so Sagittarius 21, because we round up, as you guys see, this is 20 and change, is a child and dog with borrowed eyeglasses, excuse me. The keyword is examination. The theme is scrutiny. The symbol speaks to the absence of any clear lines of separation between lower and higher life forms or levels of competency, and to use the opportunities that in its absence of clear division provides for curing and supplementing individual deficiencies. The image of a child and a dog with borrowed eyeglasses alludes to borrowing perspective or an attempt to see things more clearly and experience the world through the eyes of another. Thus, the symbol symbolizes curiosity, role play, desire for personal growth, and higher knowledge. Ultimately, each person creates his reality through his own unique mode of perception and then acts out on it. At its highest, it represents resourcefulness in using every possible means to find a new opportunity. Watch for failure to see the obvious and lack of objectivity. The accent is on ambition, improving your status in the world. You may find yourself struggling to gain more control over your life. The opportunity is your greatest advantage lies in obtaining the experience you need to get the position you want. Take one step at a time. Volunteer on a project or ask for apprenticeship where you would like to be. Guard against looking at life through rose-colored glasses only to see what you want to see. A biased perspective could cause you to miss something that you should be paying attention to. Stepping stones would be role play, pretense, disguise, ambition, seeing things through the eyes of another, perspective, scrutiny, exploration, and examination. Okay. So what do I like about this? I mean, I feel like this is like a really playful Sabian symbol. Yes, it has the perspective of being able to see life through somebody else's eyes, but I think it does touch on like innocence and simplicity, because the image of the dog symbolizes purity, keeping things simple, and the unspoiled aspects of life, and it can indicate the need to approach situations with a childlike curiosity and openness, free from complications that adulthood can bring. I also feel like it's about presence, and loyalty and companionship, because when we see the dog and the kid together, it suggests loyalty and trust. So it can also be a reminder to value and nurture relationships that bring joy and support into your life. connection to nature, right? Being able to have a connection to something outside of the human race, practicing more empathy and connection with animals, and honestly learning to play, learning to kind of make believe. I do think that the perception bit is really interesting because we are going to see obviously a building square to Neptune. This is a really common reoccurring square that we keep seeing. You guys first saw it in the shadow with Mercury retrograde, and then you're going to see it through the new moon. And the days to follow, we'll see squares to Neptune, which is definitely going to challenge something about our perspective, how we see things, but also visibility, how we are perceiving events that are taking place in the world, and if something is being manipulated or distorted or skewed. And it may deal literally with race or culture or our nationality in some capacity, keeping us from being able to better understand others. But for the most part, I like this because I do feel like this gives everybody the opportunity to role play and to make believe. And that's really why I was calling this video Dare to Dream. Sagittarius is a fire sign. We've got a stellium of planets at the time of this particular new moon in Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Mars. So it has like a very daring, kind of adventurous, seeking to go beyond the limits type of vibe. And the squares to Neptune can play out in a sense of being delusional, but it can also be about pushing the boundaries and actually moving beyond what is just our dreams or our manifestations, and making them real, okay? Now the degree in itself we're going to see is 20 degrees, which is a Scorpio degree. So it does require us to change or transform something. We may find that in the Sagittarius area of our life, we're kind of peeling back the layers of something that we're realizing is dead or not working, or maybe we need to make a dramatic change. That's going to depend on specifically where Sag is in your chart. So hang tight to the end of the video. I'll take you guys through the 12 signs. But yeah, usually with Scorpio energies, there is a need to end one thing, and that creates almost like an opportunity for regeneration. It's kind of cool that this gets factored in with a new moon, because new moons in general are about having like a clean slate. So everybody has the opportunity to really take action with Mars being in the mix, really focus on what we're hoping to achieve. And I'm really, really liking actually the trines to Chiron in the North Node, because the fire signs are going to keep things kind of active, especially when we have a number of earth and water trines that are kind of taking place round about the same time. So we're going to find that all of the elements, especially with this particular lunation, are pretty well represented. The only thing that really seems to be lacking is air. And so when we have air that's lacking in a lunation or in transits or in a natal chart, it means that there can be some blockages revolving around thinking abstractly, socializing, assessing information, being able to communicate and connect with other people. So while this is a nice balance with the other elements, I feel like there can be a sense of taking action, but not always communicating what we're doing. So we need to work a little bit harder, maybe to work through some of the potential energies of miscommunication or misunderstanding. It also seems to indicate that we have a lot to learn. And so what's cool is that Sagittarius is a sign ruled by Jupiter that always wants to learn, it wants to share, it wants to experience, and it wants to have the opportunity to see other cultures or explore other places. So this might be an opportunity for many of us to learn something about people and places that we may not know. And this really opens up, I think, the opportunity for us to be able to kind of open up and have a little bit of a dialogue with people who might be different than ourselves. Now, a new moon in Sagittarius is about that in general, though, because when we have this new moon take place, we see lots of themes revolving around Sagittarius that kind of set up. Probably the big thing for me is, setting goals with a new moon. And I think in Sagittarius, it's going to be for personal growth. While the ruler is retrograde in Taurus, we might see some Taurus themes kind of blend into this particular new moon. But the North Node ruler, Mars, is close by. So I really like this new moon for, setting goals revolving around personal development, expanding our horizons. It's wonderful to set intentions revolving around education, travel, or any form of self-improvement with this particular new moon. Now, Sagittarius teaches us also to embrace optimism, and to some extent, some of these energies can be blind optimism, right? Ignorance is bliss, especially when you see squares between Sagittarius and Pisces. But I do feel like, Sagittarius' optimistic and enthusiastic nature really puts a positive spin on the intentions that are set during this particular new moon. I encourage you guys to use this energy to cultivate a positive mindset, focusing on opportunities and possibilities that lie ahead. Keeping in mind that it's going to take about a month to really start to see this unfold, but we want to be thinking down the road where we're going to be in 6 months' time. Sometimes Sagittarius gets so fixated with like the end game or the bigger picture that it's hard for them to find all of the details. But thankfully, by the time we get into this new moon in Sag, Mercury is out of Sagittarius. It's moving into Capricorn. So we have the ability to really put our mind to something and focus on some long-term goals. So while usually this energy is a little scattered, it's a little bit more so grounded than typical Sagittarius transits. Now, this is also about exploring new horizons, whether that's through travel, physically, or exploring new ideas and philosophies. A new moon in Sagittarius encourages all of us to step outside of our comfort zone and embrace what is unknown. Now, this is especially true because of the squares to Neptune. We might be learning about something. We might be exploring a new place. We might be learning about a new culture or philosophy or even a spiritual practice. It's important to be mindful that we want to take our time because of the Mars square Neptune that's building, the Sun and Moon square Neptune that's building. There may be some traditions or practices, or there may be history behind certain cultural or religious practices that we don't really know a lot about. So I think that it's setting the stage to try to understand some of these themes better over the next 6 months, rather than feeling like there is some kind of tension about the things that we don't understand or that we can't comprehend. I also think that what's really helpful is that we happen to have Mercury in a trine to Jupiter. So this is really opening our minds up to, okay, how can we learn about new techniques or new practices that might expand earthly kind of experiences, right? Mercury is in Capricorn, an earth sign. Jupiter is in Taurus, an earth sign. So we're learning from other people who may be able to give us insight about productivity, about travel, about managing our finances, about learning new skills. Like, this is wonderful for somebody who's saying, I want to change direction with my career. I want to go back to school, or I want to get a new certification, or maybe I want to learn a new trade. I love that for this particular new moon. This is also about cultivating spirit of adventure, because Sag loves taking chances. They love taking risks and exploring the unknown. So exploring something new or taking a leap of faith in your life, where, it might be an area of your life where you need a little bit more adventure or excitement, is encouraged. But always seek knowledge and wisdom, while we're having these transits. I think that, Jupiter being the ruling planet, it's retrograde, so it might mean that we're doing a little bit of like personal reflection internally, reflecting on what we value, because it's in the sign that is associated with value and money. But this is also about, seeking wisdom and higher learning. So we can use this time to delve into topics that interest us, enroll in courses, or expand in some way. Now, Sagittarius is also about like teachers, mentors, gurus. So if you're wanting to bring somebody in who can kind of help you with that stuff, this is a wonderful new moon to be working with. Now, like I said, Jupiter is the ruler. It is retrograde, and it's also 6 signs away from Sagittarius. So I could see this as being a time where a lot of people are learning about expanding their horizons when it comes to work, looking for new jobs, also looking for trainers, teachers, people who can also be like coaches or gurus, to help when it comes to food, health, fitness, productivity, and getting things done. For me, this is like the 6th house is kind of like a can-do attitude. And it might represent a lot of people who are going to start sharing what they know. So if you're somebody who's like really well seasoned when it comes to a hobby or like a job that you do, it would be a wonderful time for some of you guys to be like, I'm gonna start a how-to, YouTube series, or I'm gonna teach people how to sew or how to garden. Particularly like Jupiter and Taurus things I think are going to be the most productive. So you're gonna see a lot of people who are gonna pop up and talk about building your own homes, creating your own gardens, sewing things, cooking things, preserving things, and learning a lot about like community collaboration, because Uranus is in the sign as well. When it comes to sustainability and being able to work as a group to be able to bring more life or resources to certain areas of our life. So if you have any of those skills, this is a time where you're definitely going to be needed out in the world. And just remember that the influence of a new moon is generally felt within about 2 or 3 days on each side. I personally like to wait until, the new moon hits to set intentions. Something that you're going to see right after the new moon hits on the evening of the 12th is a couple hours later, the moon is going to get to 22, 23 degrees. It'll start trining the north node. And it's like this sweet spot where it trines the north node and it squares Neptune. And this is why I call this video Daring to Dream, because it means that we have these big ideas that are going to be coming through during this particular new moon. We're feeling like we're excited and, capable of being able to take on some kind of task. But we also need to practice being realistic and finding some kind of balance between the big ideas that we get kind of revved up about, and what we may or may not actually be able to do. We haven't even gotten close to this yet, but I have found this energy is already happening for me in Sagittarius season. There's a lot of like, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I can do that. And I find myself constantly coming back to where Saturn and Neptune is in my chart. And I'm like, oh, well, this is in the way, right? Or this is creating a hang up, or this is creating a problem. And so we do have to take into consideration the Pisces area of our chart while we set these intentions. Fire can push Neptune, right? This new moon can push Neptune to kind of wake up, or to say, hey, maybe these are just far out ideas, or maybe it's a good idea, it's just not the right time yet. So we have to really push beyond maybe our capabilities right now when it comes to setting intentions. And that can be a good thing because it can be motivating. It can get us up earlier in the morning. It can get us out of a slump. It can help us work through emotional issues or kind of like physical or emotional blockages. But it can be negative because there can be a sense of over-promising, under-delivering. So do take that into consideration. Whether or not what you're actually aiming towards is possible. And if it is, take the necessary steps, take action, right? Because of the trines to Aries, to get these things rolling, and think realistically about your timeline, because Sagittarius does square, Pisces, and Saturn is in this particular part of the chart. For me, Sagittarius is kind of like the dreamer, and I do feel like there can be lots of ideas that are coming up right now, which we may be working through over the next couple of months before we really start to see some of this stuff emerge in the spring. So I think about like Aries season and maybe like April, May, June as kind of being a turning point where some of these things can really come to fruition. But this is a new moon that you guys are going to want to take your time with. I recommend doing your new moon intentions the night of the 12th. You can do it into the 13th, but then you're going to start getting into where the moon is getting close to Capricorn, and it's not going to have as much oomph once the moon leaves the sign of Sagittarius. So focus on, basically, because this is a potent time, focus on reflection, intention setting, aligning yourself with this energy, and really focus on dreaming big and pursuing your goals and being optimistic about the future. Now, you guys know me, I like to kind of look and see what's coming down the line, and I've gotten more so into the habit of being like, okay, I personally gauge what I'm going to do during a new moon based off of how the full moon looks 6 months down the road. A new moon can look really great, and then the full moon can look kind of crappy sometimes. So I've become a little bit more selective with when I'm doing work personally, but I'm a little bit of astrologically OCD, right? But when I looked at this new moon, which becomes a full moon in 2024, my jaw dropped. Okay, so this is why I really feel like this is a really good moon to actually set intentions for growth or whatever it is that your heart desires. So look at this full moon, you guys. This is crazy. So May 23rd, 2024, 6 months down the road, this new moon in Sagittarius becomes a big moon in Sagittarius. Well, why do I say that? So we've got the moon in Sag, the sun in Gemini. So this is obviously the full moon. This is when everything that you've been working towards in the Sagittarius area of your chart becomes larger than life. Look at this. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, right? Well, look at what Jupiter is doing. Jupiter is at 29 degrees in conjunction to Venus at 29 degrees. So I'm kind of like, I'm optimistic about this because I feel like it can be about wonderful physical growth and development. It can be about wealth. It can be about a wealth of knowledge. It can be about a wealth of money. Venus is the ruler of the South Node, so it does seem to kind of indicate that there can be big themes revolving around balances in money and resources. But personally, I like this new moon to be looking at global trends in finances, okay? What's happening around the world financially, especially because by the time we get into this full moon, Venus and Jupiter are going to be in conjunction and this anaretic degree, and it's in the sign that deals with land, money, banking. I've been like listening to some of the stuff that my husband's been talking about what's been going on in Argentina and also in El Salvador with some major political changes and also countries that are really pro-Bitcoin. I'm not a financial advisor, but I look at this and I'm like, oh, well, of course, Sagittarius is about foreign lands, and it can also be about relationships to foreign people, right? So I think some people are going to be maybe making some investments in foreign countries, or maybe into banking institutions, or maybe they're going to be buying land, starting businesses, and pouring money into some places that might have a very big boom in 2024. If you're somebody who's like, I want to set intentions for physical growth, for better self-esteem, for more money, for more security, for more beauty, this is a really wonderful new moon to be working with, because down the road, when it becomes a full, we're going to have the ruler of this moon in such a tight conjunction to Venus. And look at all of these planets, right? Mercury, which is systems, communication, travel. Uranus, which is going to be about what's unconventional, what's going on with the masses. It's also about electricity and digital things. Jupiter, which is about faith, travel, philosophy, knowledge, information. And then Venus, which is about relationships. I don't know about you, but this is going to be the new moon that I'm going to be doing some investing. This is going to be the new moon that I'm going to set some intentions for where I would like to see myself in 6 months' time. In particular, I think about how this conjunction is actually going to take place in Taurus. So not to confuse you, but look at your chart, right? Look at where Sagittarius is right now. That's where you're setting intentions, maybe taking some ideas, throwing them out there, kind of dreaming up what you can do. The trines that you're going to be seeing from this new moon to Aries is saying, okay, it's about what you can do to become more self-sufficient, what you can be taking action on between now and April to really bring in this abundance, to bring in this sweetness in the Taurus area of your chart next year. And just days after this particular full moon, we're also going to see Jupiter and Venus come into Gemini. So it's going to be extra sweet. So we're going to see that sweetness kind of spill over from Taurus into Gemini. I think in general, this is talking about wealth and growth that we're going to be seeing in technology. Obviously, Gemini, right? Mercury, Jupiter doesn't do so well there. It's in its fall, but still, nevertheless, you're going to see that there is going to be some kind of growth. And I think this is going to be about tech. I think this is going to be about travel. I think this is going to be about new gadgets and new social media companies. So something else that I would be thinking about is where are you getting your news from, and who are you investing in? And if you're no longer subscribing to cable like me, and maybe if you're no longer, watching some of these major news channels, where are you getting your news from? What are you spending your money on in terms of media? Maybe you're watching YouTube, but maybe you could consider, supporting somebody's Substack, joining a membership for a content creator that you like, maybe going and following them on Patreon. buying books or courses to people that you want to follow, people who are talking about where we're going in the future and talking about future solutions, because Taurus is a sign that likes to be productive, about food, about money, about resources, about astrology, right? Because Uranus is in there. So maybe focus on kind of shifting the way that you're getting your information. And if you find somebody or something where you really value their information, support them. You know, many people don't realize that even if you don't financially support a content creator in any capacity, following them, sharing their stuff, right? Reposting it on social media, sending it to a relative, watching their advertising, I mean, as annoying as it may be, those are things you can do that can actually help support that person. And what you may find is that through some of these shifts, some of those content creators or some of those teachers or, you know, people who are trying to get the word out about what's going on in the world may have enough adequate funding to grow some of their media, right? To become something that can be a little bit bigger. And we're going to see new systems, new social media, new banking opportunities, financial opportunities that may present freedom to the masses. All right, so I just jaw dropped about that Jupiter Venus. I mean, I think that that's just, it's so cool to see the astrology sync up in really specific time periods. All right, so back to this new moon in Sagittarius. Let's focus on where we're at now. This is like obviously getting lost in the big picture. So let's talk aspects, right? So when we're looking at a new moon, we want to focus on the ruler. Obviously, the conjunction of the sun and moon represents a fresh start. We have the sun, which is about energy and power and our goals. And then the moon, which is about our emotions, our subconscious. Generally speaking, this does talk about us collectively. So this is that collective kind of restart when it comes to Sagittarius topics. Now, Jupiter is the ruler. We've got Jupiter down here pretty soon. We'll see at the end of December, Jupiter will go direct. And I think that a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised about what new positive things start to kind of flow in the new year. But Jupiter is retrograde, which basically means we have to try a little bit harder. We have to do a little bit more work. We have to do a little bit more digging. We need to do a little bit more exploring, learning, investing to be able to reap the benefits of this particular Jupiter placement. Jupiter's at a 6, so we've got this vibe between Jupiterian's kind of knowledge and ability to be able to guide and enlighten us in very practical, down-to-earth, literal, physical ways, right? Taurus. But at a 6 is about work, action. It's about being of service. It's about connecting all the dots, looking at all the details. And like I said, this is 6 houses away from Sagittarius. So if you're a Sag or a Sag rising, you know that your life lately has been all about, okay, work, and some more work. Or it's been about making sure that, you're getting all your odds and ends done, or you're taking care of your health or your fitness, or you're making changes to your habits. And so when I think about Jupiter being in kind of like an inconjunct, right, by the sign, I think about laws revolving around food. I think about how recently, I think it was Italy that has banned lab-grown meat. This is a perfect example of Jupiter, which is about laws in close proximity to Uranus, which is about unconventional things or things that kind of are like laboratory-based. And the inconjunct to the sun and the moon. So will there potentially be over the next 6 months new laws and regulations revolving around farming, agriculture, meat, food? Are we reviewing and reflecting some of this stuff? Are you guys reading your labels? Are you seeing whether or not the stuff that you're buying in packages or jars or what have you, does it read that it has been bioengineered? If it does, you might want to think twice about eating it. And looking at all of the ingredients sometimes in some of this stuff as well. Taurus is about what's natural. And I think that we're going to hear more people speaking on a higher level, people who are well educated or well versed about, practices involving, corporate companies and the sales or the advertising, Sagittarius, of food. I also think there's going to be advocates that are going to be pushing and saying, well, we should be, eating the bugs, or we should be making sure that we're consuming less, or we should be getting rid of meat or whatever. We're definitely going to see a major push for activism in terms of these things, especially with the squares to Neptune, because it can be about being compassionate, right? Some people will say, well, we're doing it for animal rights reasons. I also think about how this is going to be bringing up the topics and the themes revolving around land rights and whether or not certain countries have the right to be investing in other countries. Recently saw in the United States, I think it was Sarah Huckabee, so I don't know I don't know which state she represents, I forget, but basically like telling certain Chinese companies, you can no longer own or be buying land in this state, in American, farmland. You can't be doing seed research, which is what they were doing. Very, very similar to this. We've got Sagittarius, which does represent other cultures. And then the inconjunct to Jupiter and Uranus is doing some kind of research in regard to land. Seeds can be actually seen as, you can see it as Taurus, you can also see it as Cancer, it depends. But I think there's going to be more regulations around that. I also feel like we may be hearing more about practices and how things are grown. I don't know what you guys know about GMOs, but it's pretty crazy for some of these farmers to see that they're genetically modifying seeds and essentially changing them on a cellular level and patenting it or copywriting it and owning the rights to these seeds. And, if the seeds happen to blow into one farm into another, then the farmers are getting caught growing some of this food. Like, they can be in violation of potentially like infringement on using other copyright seeds or patented seeds. Crazy stuff. So I think we're going to be hearing more about some of this stuff. International trade and exchange, both of currencies and what banks are doing business where, and the list goes on. So we're definitely going to see a lot of that stuff. But for me, I think about how Jupiter is retrograde, and it means that we're having to work a little bit harder on building resources, self-esteem, money, physical things, and just feeling like we're just grinding and we're doing the work. But like I said, at the end of the month, you're going to start to see Jupiter go direct and you're going to get some of the goodies, and Jupiter will hit 5. So it'll be reactivating the eclipse that we recently had in Taurus. Now, the big one for me is probably the one of the bigger aspects. It's kind of a toss up between the trine to Mercury and the opposition to Venus, but the opposition is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with. So we have Venus in Scorpio, right? Sexy Scorpio, and the opposition to Jupiter. While Venus goes through Scorpio, you guys will hear me talk about this on Thursday, Venus is the dispositor of Jupiter and Uranus. So we've got Venus in her fall, so she can have a more difficult time moving through this sign. And then she's making an opposition to Jupiter. So we're going to see lots of change in regards to money, resources, maybe relationships to our values are shifting, our relationships, maybe we're changing where we're banking or how we're banking. I do think we're going to hear a lot of wild stuff throughout Venus's transit in Scorpio about changes to interest rates. I've heard so many people who have been sending me messages being like, my car insurance went up like crazy, my homeowner's insurance went up like crazy, my health premiums went up. And this, I think, is going to be a big topic as we start seeing Venus come into opposition over this next month between Jupiter as well as Uranus. But when we see Venus in opposition to Jupiter, this is about balancing intensity and stability. So the opposition creates tension between both placements of Scorpio and Taurus, while Venus in Scorpio seeks deep emotional experiences, while Jupiter in Taurus emphasizes stability and pleasures of the material world. So finding a balance between intensity and stability in relationships and values becomes a crucial talking point during this particular new moon. So, I could see this be talking about the wealth divide, the extreme differences between, the classes that we're seeing in the world where, Jupiter and Taurus wants more, feels like the more expensive, the richer, the more valuable, the better. And Venus in Scorpio can have some really intense emotions and feelings about not having enough or being fearful of not being able to have what is necessary or what is needed. Remember, Venus is like a flower, so it's meant to kind of blossom and bloom, but not many people realize that after that blossoming, the flower kind of dies. So I think Venus in its fallen Scorpio in opposition to Jupiter, we're just going to see so much inequality, and we're going to start to see where the wealth divide is just getting stronger and stronger. And it can be making people feel like they're willing to do some desperate things in order to get what they need to survive. Now we'll see extravagance versus depth. Because Jupiter tends to amplify what it touches, and in Taurus, it's an amplification of a desire for material abundance and indulgence. But this clashes in the opposition with Venus in Scorpio, and it can create profound emotional experiences. Sometimes opposites attract, so it can bring big opportunities through change and transformation in relationships and values. But it can also, be showing us where there is a need to make more meaningful connections and relationships and not be basing some of our relationships off of physical or material things. So that could definitely come up as well. But I do think that profound emotional connections can happen with this opposition. Sometimes Venus in opposition to Jupiter is like a big love story, and it can represent some kind of like turning a fortune and rags to riches and something that kind of shows up and it seems like it's unobtainable, but it makes you push to go after what it is that you really want. And then we've got the potential for excess, overindulgence. The opposition can lead to excess. So it can manifest as overspending, overindulging, sensual pleasures, overestimating the depth of connection without considering the practical realities of the situation. So, look, mid-December, right? Midst of holiday season, getting ready to come to the end of December where a lot of people are exchanging gifts, a lot of people are traveling. My goodness, it's like, be very careful with the credit cards, guys, like seriously, because some people might be in a position where they're like, I don't have the cash right now, but I can do the flex pay or I'll take out the credit card. Like some of the interest rates can be killer because Venus in Scorpio can represent like the debt aspect of it and the interest that is going to need to be paid. So be mindful when it comes to borrowing and spending or, taking money out of savings because the impact can be felt so much more strongly 6 months from now. Jupiter conjunct Venus in Taurus can mean overindulgence and like mega wealth, but 29 degrees can also represent a turning point in a crisis. So I look at this right now as kind of like if there are expenses that you don't have to make, don't make them unless you feel like it does not matter, that the money that you spend isn't going to impact you or isn't going to affect you. Because 6 months from now, when we have that conjunction, I think some situations are going to be bigger. I think things might be more costly. I think we're going to continue to see issues with prices going up and some things might feel completely unaffordable. So when you're buying houses, buying cars, taking out more debt, or just living lavishly, think about where we're going to be 6 months down the road. Now, the other thing that I keep thinking about is like the trine to Mercury. So finally, we have Mercury out of Sagittarius. It will be back, but Mercury right now is direct and it is getting ready to station because the retrograde will start just after this particular new moon. So when a planet's stationing, it's getting ready to turn retrograde or direct. In this case, it's getting ready to turn retrograde. And Mercury rules communication, travel, systems. And this tells me that with Mercury stationing, there's getting ready to be some big changes or some overhauls or transformations or maybe changing of minds in regards to Capricorn things, business, government, responsibility, rules. Thankfully, Mercury does a little bit better in Capricorn. It's been really wonderful for helping everybody, I think, focus more on, sticking to timelines and fulfilling goals and making moves that need to be made professionally. It's not unusual to get to the end of the year and go, well, I'm getting my review, or am I going to get my bonus, or am I going to change job next year? Because Mercury is usually somewhere around Capricorn. But in this case, it's stationing and it's also within a 3-degree orb of a trine to Jupiter. Now, if you remember, I talked about how Mercury and Jupiter will form 3 different trines. You're actually going to see one that's going to be happening a couple days prior to this, so right before the new moon, where there can be some kind of good news, being more optimistic, thinking positively. I think it's on the 8th-ish, or it's just a couple days prior to this. That you're going to see like opportunities for good communication and, You know, having Mercury trine Jupiter in earth signs means that the more that you're taking practical steps forward and like exercising some sense of planning or commitment, because it's a Saturn-based sign, you can see more opportunities for growth. And so what's interesting is that first Mercury trines Jupiter and Jupiter is retrograde. Then Mercury goes retrograde and trines Jupiter retrograde. And then Mercury goes direct, Jupiter goes direct, and they're trining each other in the new year. So that's baked into this new moon. So it's kind of foreshadowing for a whole month. We're trying to figure out, okay, what are our goals, Mercury and Capricorn? What do we want to achieve? How do we want to be known? What do we want our status or title to be? Where are we taking more responsibility? And how is that leading us to being able to have more growth, more positivity, more abundance, and more resources? So this is why this particular new moon, I think, is a little bit more mature than most other Sagittarius transits. And not that Sagittarians can't be mature, but they're a Jupiter-based sign. They're more excited and enthusiastic and wanting to take action when they have an idea or when there's something that kind of strikes their fancy. They don't always focus on the details. They're more about the experience. So to see Mercury's second house to Sagittarius, which is about, you know, getting our finances in order, focusing on our goals, being serious about our resources and our spending, and then the trine to Jupiter makes me feel like this can be wonderful because we can feel optimistic and enthusiastic, going after our dreams, coming up with a timeline, being productive, holding ourselves accountable, using the optimism of Jupiter, the practicality of the earth signs, and the communication of Saturn, Mercury in a Saturn-based sign is like awesome. Like this is such a great new moon. So you've got it kind of both ways, right? You've got the trine to Jupiter and you've also got Mercury in a trine to Venus. So we can be speaking very seriously about what our passions are, or about what it is that we hope to change or transform. If you're somebody who likes to set intentions, or you're like, oh, new year, new me on January 1st, and you're taking your ass hungover to the gym, don't waste your time, right? Mercury is going direct actually on January 1st. This is the new moon where you set your 2024 intentions if you want to do it in the new year. This one's going to have more punch than 2 weeks down the road when you've got a bunch of Mars, Neptune squares, and Mercury retrograde. It's not going to stick as well. So my advice is set your 2024 intentions on this day, or wait to the spring when we come into the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere and do it somewhere around that time period, because that's really the real new year. But this is as close as we're going to get right now. All right, so focus on that can-do attitude, look for positive communication and good ideas. Here are the challenging aspects. The challenging aspects is that we do have a new moon that squares Neptune. So when this happens, basically, it's a challenging aspect because it indicates tension or conflict with the 90-degree angle. So Neptune, right, associated with dreams, illusions, and anything that's more mystical. And the new moon in square to Neptune says that there could be potential for confusion, idealism, a sense of unreality in our aspirations. So it's really important to be mindful of any illusions or unrealistic expectations that may cloud your vision during this time. Interesting, right? The little kid putting on the glasses, sitting with the dog and making believe. I don't know about you. Have you ever put on somebody else's glasses and you try to look through them? Generally, that's if it's a prescription pair, it's meant for somebody's eyes, right? It's not going to kind of set well with yours. So we can be dreaming and aspiring to be like somebody else or to be in another place or in another position, but are we seeing things clearly, right? Or are we being too idealistic? Are we completely detached from reality? Obviously, squares to Neptune can bring that up, especially when it's in a third quarter square. So these planets are coming and squaring Neptune from the left-hand side, which means like, okay, we're taking action and we're going to see whether or not it's going to work or not. And if it's not going to work, then we're going to see very clearly, probably around Pisces season, like, hey, this is not working. We're going to scrap this. So we almost want to treat the next 3 months as being like, we've got these dreams, we have these intentions, we're working towards it, but we're also realistic about our timelines. And if something's not working, we need to know that we have to actually scrap it and let go, and we can start anew in the spring. Watch for issues with illusions, unrealistic expectations, and thoughts that can cloud your vision during the time of the new moon. Now, you'll see this between now and the next new moon, which will be in Capricorn. So you can work with this for about 28 days to see if what you're trying to do is working or not, or if you're feeling like you're hitting a wall, or if you're still having some confusion, definitely reassess. We're also going to see the new moon that's going to be quincunx or in conjunct Uranus, okay, by a degree. And this is also a difficult aspect because the inconjunct is considered challenging, and it involves the two signs basically not sharing any common ground. So it makes it difficult to integrate their energies. So where the new moon in Sagittarius is like daring and adventurous and wants to learn and wants to share with people, Uranus in Taurus is saying, well, I'm afraid, what if the money isn't there? What if it doesn't take off? What if it doesn't work? This also means that we need to learn. We need to have experiences. We need to have teachers, mentors, other people who can teach us more about Uranus and Taurus things. When I look at this, I think of like people fearing what they don't understand. A lot of people talking about things they don't understand, naysaying things they don't understand about Uranus and Taurus, about the future of potential financial freedom, about the future maybe of digital money, the future of unconventional farming methods, and maybe what's unconventional is coming together and people learning from each other about how to grow food, how to have more resources, how to use food and plants as medicine, or to use it as trade or as currency. Like that might be a thing. So you're definitely going to see some naysaying happen during this particular new moon. And a lot of it's because there's something that's not resonating, I think maybe on a global level, about how we look at money, how we look at values. And really what it's saying is that we have different values in different places. What we value here in the United States is probably going to be very different than what people value in like Indonesia or Australia or in, South America. So we have to kind of get on the same page with what our value systems are. We might find that certain cultures or countries are kind of leading the way in teaching and showing through experience of how we can make major changes in food and banking. And so I'm curious to see, I know Sagittarius has connections with South America. I know it has connections with Spain. So it's fun for me to see this play out in real time and to see all the pushback going on in Spain, against the socialist movement. We're also seeing major changes going on in South America, like Argentina and obviously El Salvador, who's talking about the potential freedom that can be had through major changes and innovations, introducing more of a pro-cryptocurrency kind of movement. And so you will see some pushback, and you're going to see some people who may be teachers and scholars and, economists that are going to be like, yeah, it won't work. But watch what happens 6 months from now as we see this new moon mature. That's all I'm going to say. And essentially, when you see the inconjunct, it just means that the two need to learn how to work together, and they need to be able to share, their perspectives and collaborate. Jupiter is in the same sign. It's not making the inconjunct, but it's in the same sign. And so it's almost like you have to look back at when the Sun and Mars came into an inconjunct with Jupiter, right? I think there was like small sparkles of some of the news of some of these events that were coming out globally that was kind of starting to spark a bit of a revolution. So when you combine these aspects of a new moon in Sagittarius in conjunct Uranus and square Neptune, there's a period of tension, unpredictability, and new beginnings and new intentions. And there may be a conflict between the need for stability and the desire for freedom and change. Additionally, there's a risk that may be swayed by idealism or confusion. So it's crucial to approach your goals with a clear and realistic mindset. The key here during this time is to stay adaptable, to be open to unexpected changes, and carefully assess the practicality of your plans, balancing the adventurous and optimistic spirit of Sag with the disruptive and dreamy influences of Uranus and Neptune. This is going to require a consciousness effort to navigate the tension and find the middle ground that aligns with everything, with what's going on in the cosmos right now. So definitely a lot of outer planet aspects that this is making. Now let's talk positive, because there's definitely some positive here. For me, I'm loving the new moon that is in a trine to the North Node. It's within about a 2-degree, 2.5, almost 3-degree orb, but that is a positive aspect. The new moon that's trining the North Node is all about representing the path of growth and development. Okay, so where we're going. So if you look at the house that Aries is in, this is what is brand new. It's blossoming. There's some initiation. There's some opportunity for like life, right? Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So I feel like this is about emphasizing qualities such as independence, self-discovery, and taking the initiative. And when the new moon comes in and trines this, there's a supportive alignment between the energy of new beginnings in Sagittarius and the evolutionary direction of what's going on in Aries in your chart. So it suggests that the intentions set are potentially aligning with where you're going for the next year or so in terms of your life purpose, and it's positively in an action-based way, right? It's fire, allowing you to have a jump start on what you're going to be initiating in Aries. So you got to look at that part of your chart. Now, when we have a trine to the North Node, that means we also have a sextile to the South Node. And the sextile is also a harmonious aspect. It's kind of an aspect that's like a Venusian aspect, so it lends positive energy to the South Node. And for me, this is like relationship lessons, growing, moving beyond, getting out of being stuck in old patterns in relationships. And I really like it. I mean, I think that what this is going to be doing is it's allowing us to really focus on finding balance. And the sextile suggests that there's support between the new moon in Sagittarius and the ease of drawing on past experiences relating to relationships and balance. So it means that we can reflect on the past and help teach us about moving forward. It also means that it can contribute positively to our current intentions without trying to rely too heavily on old patterns or old people, right? We're not going back to those same relationships. We're not going back to those same tendencies, maybe to be a little too comfortable or complacent or indecisive, right? Because Sagittarius is like, nope, we're not thinking about it. We're just going, here we go. Where Libra can want to check in with other people and ask what other people think or kind of go back and forth and making up their mind. Sag is like, nope, we're going to go. We're going for it. And it's positively impacting Aries, who's like, great. We're taking this trip or we're learning this new thing and we're learning to be more self-sufficient because that's what the North Node in Aries is all about. Now, to work with this particular new moon, I really recommend sitting down, writing your intentions, setting them out. That's the best thing that you can do because Mercury is in a sign that is about physical things, right? It's also in a sign that's about timing. And Mercury will be in a trine to Jupiter. So it's like great time to set up a budget, especially if you want to create a budget because you know you want to go somewhere next year. So if you're like, I want to go on a trip next year, come up with a budget, set something aside, create an account that you can transfer money to, find a jar that you can put some money in or your spare change and start saving it. Or maybe find a credit card that you know extra resources or points are going to go towards that, right? Travel, Mercury, Jupiter. I also recommend working with fire because Sagittarius is a fire sign. It is connected to tin. So something that you can do is you can like write your intentions out for the new moon, wrap it up in tin, put it next to or underneath a candle. Obviously be careful with fire, but light a candle, right? And you can work with colors that are associated with Sagittarius. You can do like purple, you can do gold, because these are Jupiter colors. If you want to do like red, you can do that as well. But I would recommend, writing out your intentions the night of the new moon and folding it up and putting it somewhere safe. And remember that full moon, yes, it'll come through Sagittarius, but you're actually going to see some of the goodies that are going to be kind of spilling over from Taurus into Gemini. So there's so much to go and learn with this new moon, so much to explore, so much to be optimistic and positive about. We want to be thinking about the future of not where we are right now, but what are we going to need to know in the future? What are we going to need to understand in the future? And being prepared for that and well-versed can make us more likely to receive all of the benefits and also the abundance that will come next year. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to take you guys through the 12 signs, and I want to show you where it's taking place for each and every one of your signs here. Now, I'm a Western astrologer. That is what I like to practice. I am not a Vedic astrologer, but I do use some Vedic techniques sometimes. So let's make this a whole sign chart. So you want to be listening for your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign, okay? And in that order. The rising sign is going to show you where this is happening. The sun sign is going to tell you how it's impacting you on a personal level. The moon sign is going to be how it impacts you emotionally. Personally, I would listen to all three. I think you're going to get something out of all of them. But yes, this is Western whole sign. If you like to use Placidus, like I do in my private practice, you want to be looking for where 20 degrees of Sagittarius is in your chart. You might have to listen to two signs, but it's going to show you more or less where this is going to be taking place in your life. And if you want to listen to your progress chart, you can do that too. So once again, Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising, 18 to 22 degrees. Okay, if you have an angle there, if you have a sun or a moon or a personal planet, this is really important for you. And if it happens to be right around your birthday, happy birthday. You have a really awesome new moon. So make sure you do something special to set those intentions. So we're going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. We're going to take a look and see what's going on for you. And as a reminder, we're not just looking at the new moon. We're also going to look at where Jupiter is as well. Okay. So Aries, you've got a new moon that's taking place in Sagittarius. So a lot of what I've been saying really applies to you. It's in your ninth house. So education, travel, learning, meeting with mentors, focusing on joining new programs, changing something about your belief and your philosophy is really important. Mars is really close by, okay? And I guess I should have said this for everybody, but in general, you'll see, down the road here later in the month, Mars is going to come into conjunction with this new moon. So we're still going to see Mars kind of activate this point and kind of say, okay, time to go, right? And it's going to trine the North Node. So we're already kind of starting to see some of the bigger picture coming into fruition with where we're going to take some kind of action. The new moon's in harmony with the North Node in your chart. So for me, it feels like, traveling, learning something, taking some kind of class, working with a teacher or a mentor, something like that is kind of emerging. So if you want to go on a trip, great time to start the process of getting ready to plan it. If you want to go back to school, you wanted to get a degree, or maybe you're looking for a program, or maybe you're wanting to kind of initiate something where you're going to be learning more about culture or travel, now is a really good time to do that. Now, Jupiter, the ruler, is hanging out in your second house of money and resources. So to me, it looks like while there's new intentions revolving around these things, it's going to cost money. You're like, okay, if I'm doing this, if I'm setting this up, then I know that it means that I have to have the funds to be able to make this happen. Or if I'm going to launch a course, or if I'm going to publish a book, I want to make sure that it's going to make money. So you might feel like it's a time to kind of connect with, other people who can kind of help you when it comes to navigating that, and maybe like advertising techniques or campaigns. And you may spend more money on traveling, advertising, education, to see this kind of come full circle, okay? So let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. I think it's going to be really potent for you because it's a sister sign, right? So especially if you're in Aries, sun, moon, or rising, around the same degrees, the 18 to 22, you're going to experience a trine. The card that I get for you is the Justice card, which is interesting because I feel like the sextiles to the South Node are about feeling more optimistic and doing things independently, doing things on your own, really reevaluating whether or not you want to work with, collaborate, connect, or have support from certain people. The Justice card can be about karma. It can be about fairness, balance, universal law and legality, or accountability. The ninth house is a house that does deal with law. It does deal with talking to attorneys, or, having people look at legal documents, or helping you when it comes to handling a case. So I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying that if you are in a situation like this, with Mars being at the top part of your chart, if you feel like it's something that you need to do, taking some kind of action legally, or in a relationship, or maybe whether or not you want to work with somebody or connect with somebody at a distance, this card is definitely indicating that there is some kind of sense of balance coming in through your relationships with other people. Okay. Good luck, Aries. All right, so Taurus and Taurus rising, you're going to be doing this new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 8th house. This is all about change, transformation, and shining a light on things that can be a little bit more taboo. The 8th house is about release of something old and initiating something new. So you might find that, there's some uncomfortable stuff that comes up, or maybe you're discussing some kind of change financially with a partner. But the positive thing is that the ruler of this particular moon is in your sign, okay? Jupiter is retrograde in your sign. So for you, Taurus, it's all about how you're embracing change. It's all about how you're learning to become get a little bit more comfortable with the uncomfortable, where the need for self-reflection and going deep can be a positive thing, and it can kind of keep you on your toes. But I also think that it can teach you that there's a lot of room for growth. And the more that you're willing to kind of deal with some shadow topics, the easier this is going to be. I also think that, this particular new moon in the trine to the North Node in your 12th house can be about faith, and how you're taking action when it comes to your faith or your belief system. And that time alone, reflection, what have you, can really help you move through some of this stuff. So you're going to be seeing the changes coming through yourself, but it might also be that you're initiating changes and bringing about changes to joint resources. Mars is close by, so there can be some changes in regards to your relationship with money, and a partnership in some capacity as well. The card that I get is the King of Swords. I like this for you, especially because there's such a lack of air in this chart. So, King of Swords is about communication. It's about mastering communication, mental clarity, intellectual power, truth, authority, reason, discipline, high standards, head over heart, integrity, serious, and strictness, okay? Gemini, Libras, and Aquariuses can kind of play a role here as well, because they are all air signs. But the feeling that I'm getting is that this is all about how you're learning to kind of vocalize, what changes you're going through. Maybe Mercury trine Jupiter is about you talking about what you've learned, and you're sharing this with other people, and you're finding a way to maybe make money from that, or you're finding a way to be able to, share your thoughts and your ideas, and it has some kind of positive impact on your joint resources in some way. But speaking out, communicating, and sharing is so important. And even though the new moon is in one sign, now you can kind of see how other signs actually play a role and how some of this stuff kind of comes about. So equally as well, you're important as well, Taurus, because you're playing a role in sharing some kind of information or insight with people. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You'll be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius, and you're doing that in your relationship house. So that's in your 7th house of other people. Now, new moon in the 7th house is basically setting intentions in regards to changes within relationships. It can mean that you're out there and you're ready to mingle and meet people. It can mean that there is a dramatic change that is about to happen in an existing relationship. Relationships are lively, right? Mars is there, you've got a new moon there. So in that sense, I do feel like this is about positive changes and taking action with another person. Some of you guys are working with clients, other people are getting more physically active, or maybe you're traveling with a partner. It really depends. But when you have a new moon in the 7th, you're setting intentions about what you're hoping to achieve with relationships. And Mars being there gives you a little bit of an extra oomph. So it's okay, you're going to take action there, or you're going to work out, or you're going to fight, or you're going to spar. That can happen too with Mars and Sag. And with so many planets in opposition to your sign, it might feel like it's a lot about other people. So it may not feel like it's about you personally, especially if you're a mid-degree Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising. The opposition and the square can have you feeling like there's a lot of action going on with other people, that's outside of your control, and it's like impacting something about your professional life or about the way that you kind of present yourself to the world. There can be a sense of like relationships and other people kind of coming at you and being very daring. But I think what's interesting is that the ruler here, Jupiter, is in the 12th house. So it almost seems as if like there is some actions that are taking place in relationships or in relationship to other people that you intuitively might kind of be like, I have a feeling like somebody's going to do this, and then they do it, you know? Or you have a dream about something, Jupiter in the 12th house, or like an intuitive hit, and then like they do it. Jupiter in the 12th house and its connection to this new moon can talk about traveling in a foreign country, connecting with somebody who might be abroad. It may mean that you're kind of feeling a little uneasy about connecting with a partner if you're feeling like they're being a little testy. And you're not wanting to kind of rock the boat, right? Because Jupiter's in the 12th house. So you're like, okay, I'm going to let them be. I'm just going to give them their space. And maybe, you know, when they cool out for a few hours and they come back, we'll be able to sit down and have a chat. It might also be that you notice that a partner is initiating or starting a new schedule, a new job, a new habit, or a new routine. They can be really adamant about health and fitness. And there can be a sense of encouraging you guys to kind of do that together. That can be coming up here as well. The other thing that I like about this is that Mercury, right, which is your ruler, is in a trine to Jupiter in the 12th house. So it means that maybe you guys are on the same page about, you know, changes with your work or your health or your sleep schedule. Maybe it means that you're learning how to change the way that you guys communicate and connect with one another. And you're trying to kind of get into the same flow or schedule or sequence. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with so much of the 12th and the 6th house stuff that's kind of getting brought up. But good for communication for you, right? Even if other people are being intense, you'll be able to communicate. The card that I get is the 6 of Cups, which is a cool card for a 7th house new moon. That's pretty sweet. Nostalgic, you know, connecting with people from the past, memories, what's familiar, innocence, reunions, comfort, pleasure. You know, this is kind of like the soulmate card, the 6 of Cups. So it can talk about relationships moving very quickly. I think about the connection of Mars and the trines from the 11th house, where it's about getting on the same page about goals with a partner, socializing and bringing, you know, friends in and connecting with other people and finding ways to kind of keep the relationship exciting. Or maybe you're meeting people through socializing with those trines as well. But for some of you guys, if there's been some miscommunications or misunderstandings in relationships, you're going to have the incoming Mercury retrograde to work it out. But also, I think there can be like a reconnection. There can be connecting somebody from the past, right? So somebody from the past can come back in a positive way, reminiscing on how relationships used to be in the past with an existing partner and trying to get back to kind of like that sweetness, right? Good luck, my Geminis. We have Cancer and Cancer rising. You will be experiencing this new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 6th house. And the 6th house is all going to be about health, wellness, habits, routines, your office space. A new moon here is a wonderful time to set new intentions in regards to your health, or maybe to be looking for a new job, maybe to kick an old habit, get back to the gym, go and see your doctor for like a physical. So a new moon in Sagittarius, especially in a sign that in conjuncts or quincunx is your sign, you may feel like there is some kind of fluctuation or change to your daily routine. It may be a time where you're thinking very seriously about creating more time for travel or more time for connecting with friends. Now, the reason why I say this is Jupiter is the ruler, and Jupiter is up here in Taurus, retrograde in your 11th house of goals and friends. So it looks to me like there is some kind of change happening, either in your daily routine or your habits, and the impact that may have on allowing you to achieve your goals or feel a little bit more social. The one thing that I will say is that with Mars being close by, I do feel like for some of you guys, it's going to be about starting a new job, or that there is going to be some shift in your schedule, or maybe like, you know, people who are changing departments if you work in like an office position. But it's a really, really good time with the trines to the North Node to be focusing on responsibility, getting your work done, productivity, setting a new schedule, sticking to it, especially if you're wanting to make sure that you're reaching or you're achieving some of your professional goals. Mars can make you feel like, you're cutting things out of your diet or you're cutting things out of your routine. And maybe that you're taking action because you're hoping to kind of get all of your ducks in a row so you feel like you have more time for playtime. It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Yeah, and I think communication with other people, especially friends and partners, can be really helpful throughout this particular transit for you. Let's see what the cards say. I could also see like scheduling issues where you're trying to find more time for either travel or education, because there are some squares to planets in your 9th house. The card that I get is the Knight of Cups. So this is all about either connection. This could be you because you're a water sign, but it could be a Cancer, a Scorpio, or another Pisces. And this is about creativity. This is about romance and also imagination and beauty and finding the opportunity to be a mediator or a negotiator, right? A peacekeeper. Maybe there's some tension at work. You could see some employees that are, or some coworkers that are kind of getting agitated with this. But the trine to the North Node is kind of like, being the manager, being the leader, being the person who says, hey, let's find a way to work it out. Let's figure it out. Let's work together. Especially because Moon Mars in the 6th house can feel kind of agitating for like all of these things that are going on either at work or your daily routine. So the Knight of Cups can be about being compassionate and like trying to understand other people's issues, but at the same time being like, okay, we got to kind of keep this moving. Maybe intuitively you're picking up on this before it's happening. I also feel like sometimes with the new moon in the 6th house, people cut something out of their diet or out of their habits. And so you've got planets that are squaring Neptune. And Jupiter in your 11th house can be about, well, I'm overindulging or I'm over drinking or I'm overspending. And so there can be a sense of being like, okay, I'm trying to cut that out. So maybe leaning into some of those changes more intuitively and kind of listening to your body and what needs to change can be helpful. Good luck. All right, so now we've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 5th house. And I love this energy for you, Leo. This is really fun. You've got a new moon in your 5th house, which is a house that you resonate with, right? Because it's usually like a solar house. It's about creativity, self-exploration, expression, romance, children, falling in love. And if you happen to have anything around like 20 to, I would say 18 to 22 degrees, you'll experience a trine. It would be a fire trine. So you, especially Leos, I think are going to do well with this particular new moon. So we've got a new moon in Sagittarius in the 5th house, and this is all about setting new intentions for having fun, being creative, and self-expression. Mars is in the mix, so it can mean that something about having fun means that you're traveling or that you're connecting with children or that maybe you're learning. It means that there can just be a lot more of taking chances, right? Mars has connections also to the 4th house, so maybe you're getting creative with something about your home or your family. Maybe you're, hanging out, playing games more with the kids. Maybe you're going to sports games. Maybe you're finding ways to kind of hang out and travel or exercise some kind of like competitiveness with Mars being involved. But this new moon is going to be in a trine to the North Node. And I feel like this is about learning to take chances and going after what you want. So for many of you guys, it's how learning about something leads to a new hobby and it's something that you really end up enjoying. But it can also mean that you're like, my new business is teaching, or it's going to be working with kids, or, I'm starting a new creative project and now I want to share it with other people in other places. So travel, creativity, romance are all kind of major themes here. Jupiter is the ruler and Jupiter is retrograde in your career zone right now. So for those of you guys who are wanting to become self-employed, for those of you guys who are becoming parents, for those of you guys who are working in a creative industry, or maybe you do something that's around teaching or education. Extra special for you guys because I think Jupiter's involvement in your 10th house, getting ready to go direct, is saying, look, something's getting ready to be revealed that you've been working really hard on, or that you've been taking care of or nurturing, and now it's going to positively impact you professionally or in terms of your status out in the world. Days after this new moon, we're going to see Mars coming into conjunction, and I feel like this is when some of you guys might say, you know what, I'm going to take the class, I'm going to buy the tickets, I'm, going to visit this place that I've never been before. And definitely a lot of action or activity, either with your inner child, romantic partner, or children. The card that I get is the Eight of Cups. And I really genuinely feel that some of you guys are either making changes with your home base, or you're making changes in cutting or breaking away from past family patterns because of Mars's connection to the 4th house. So some of you guys are like, I'm traveling away from home. I'm looking for a new place to live. I'm moving in with a partner. I'm moving on from, having pain in regards to my inner child, or, blockages in regards to my love life. Like, you're moving on, you're keeping it moving. This card is a card that can be difficult, though, because it means that you're doing it because you're feeling unfulfilled, or because you're leaving a situation or letting something go because you're searching for something better. You're searching for the truth, walking into the unknown. So for many of you guys, maybe traveling to places, or getting into situations where you don't really know where it's going to take you. But I feel like in the back of my mind, thinking about this conjunction in 6 months, a little bit of creativity and a willingness to roam will take you a long way, especially some positive changes in your status. So you might have an amazing new job next year. You might have a new status in the world. You might suddenly get married. You might suddenly relocate, become a parent, fall in love. Some really big storylines are going to come together for you in the spring of next year. And right now it seems to be about following your heart, even if that means that that you have to leave some things behind. Okay. Good luck, Leo. I'm so excited to see that story in particular because that's big for you guys. We have Virgo and Virgo rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 4th house. Same thing goes for all the mutable signs. So if you have anything from that 18 to 22 degrees, sun, moon, or rising, you'll be experiencing a new moon, but it will be a square. And in particular, I'm kind of feeling like Virgo is one of the signs that's really going to be feeling this punch for a number of reasons. And there's some silver linings here. So the new moon is about setting intentions in regards to your home base, where you're living, how you feel, your family, and anything in regards to the past or your emotions. Okay. So I see new moons bring opportunities to be like, hey, I want to move in the next 6 months, or I want to renovate a home, or I'm going to go back and visit my family more often, or I don't know where I'm going to live, but I'm going to find something. So that definitely comes up here. And it is close in proximity to Mars. So for me, Mars's connection to the 3rd house is movement, but it's also about being flexible. And then the 4th house is where you actually live. So it kind of paints a storyline that's like, look, over the next 6 months, you're trying to find a place to live. Maybe you're visiting with family. Maybe you're going to be, going back and forth to families, homes more often. Maybe there is a sense of impatience with trying to find a place to land. And I think about how, this is in the 4th house, which is also a very emotional and sensitive house. And so some of you guys might be contemplating traveling or relocating further away or to distant lands. Now, the ruler at the time of this particular new moon is Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Taurus in your 9th house of foreign places, cultures, and belief. And it's retrograde, so it means something is still yet to be revealed about what the future holds with your belief and your philosophy about home or about education. And thankfully, we see Jupiter in a trine to Mercury, which is your ruler. So it's almost like you're getting in touch with your inner child, you're connecting to a romantic person further away. Maybe you're entertaining the idea of living with another person. Maybe you're entertaining the idea of having some free time and like spending some time in another place to have some fun. But there's big conversations taking place with this new moon that's going to be about, well, what am I hoping to create? You know, do I want to just have more opportunity and time to socialize with other people? Am I moving to a place that's going to give me more of that? For some of you guys, you know, Saturn's in your 7th house, and then Mercury's in your 5th house of children, trine Jupiter. For some of you guys, it's like, you know, you're getting married, so where do you buy a home? Or you are married and you want to relocate and you're like, well, are we having a kid? Like, these things might impact, these conversations are going to impact your search for home or changes on the home front. The downside is that you have Mars conjunct this new moon, which means that you may feel like the next month or the next 6 months is just a lot of moving around and shuffling through things and making a lot of changes at home, or maybe having some tiffs with relatives or with roommates. And the new moon does square Neptune. So there's a sense of being like, I know we need to make moves. My family's telling me we need to move out, or there's not enough space in this space, or I'm feeling pressured to make a change in a living situation. And feeling like a partner is either out to lunch or not supportive, or you're not getting the feedback that you need from another person. Maybe you're on the home front and, you know, you're looking for something and you're on a hunt for a home, and you have a landlord that, you know, is causing some problems and you're trying to get out of. Or I could see having like a realtor that, you know, just isn't quite getting what you're looking for, and they're sending you listings and you're like, this doesn't look like what I want. So there is some sense of feeling frustrated with other people. And my advice is, this is about talking to somebody who has a better perspective or a bigger perspective, or looking in places that might be a little bit further away than where you're considering living. And when you think about next year, when you have all of these conjunctions taking place in your 9th house, you know, where you're going to school might influence where you're living, or where your in-laws live might influence where you're living. Or if you have a romantic partner that's saying, hey, I'm moving back to this city, or I'm moving back to this country, you know, come with me, that might be something else that you consider as well. But look for those positive conversations. That's the silver lining here. And really asking yourself, what does the heart want? The card that I get for you is Temperance, which is so funny with the squares to Neptune, because it's saying like timing is everything. Don't rush something. Temperance is about balance, harmony, and healing, patience, self-control, tranquility, serenity, calm, and peace. Well, you're going to want more of this at home. I don't know how much you're going to be feeling, because you might feel like you're being pushed out of a home or a living situation, or you're uncomfortable. And I think the key here with mutable squares is just to remind yourself, this is temporary, right? This is not forever. This will pass. And I think that you're going to be very pleased when you get to next spring, when you realize that you're settled into a place that's very comfortable. I think you're very happy. I think maybe also there's like some new job stuff that might be coming up for you next year, or some positive changes or a job shift. So that might be another way of looking at it, is like, okay, not happy here with this job. You know, would I potentially look at another location? And where can I do what I want to do and also live where I want to live? And so there's going to be that kind of storyline that's going to set up for you next year as well. Okay. Patience. That's really the best advice I can give you, and know that this is just temporary. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 3rd house. And your 3rd house is all about communication. It's your neighborhood. It's your vehicle. Siblings. It can also equally be about moving. So when you have a new moon here, really the focus is going to be on these themes. I like the fact that Sagittarius, you know, it sextiles your sign Libra. So really what you're going to learn is that communication is king throughout this new moon. It's really important to write things down, to communicate, to share, to get all that information out. And you've got Mars that's in close proximity, okay? So Mars is your 7th house lord. So to me, it looks like you have a lot of support from either a partnership or another person, or a lot of people who are calling or checking in with you, or, you know, if you're married, you have a spouse or somebody who's kind of helping you with these 3rd house things. They might be encouraging you to write something, to learn. There may be more discussion about road trips, traveling, or moving. There can be some heated conversations that can come up with this conjunction, but for the most part, the new moon is basically saying, okay, if I want to launch something, like let's say I want to launch a website or a new social media, or do something locally in the neighborhood, This is a good time to start the process of getting ready to do that. Now, the ruler is Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter in the 8th house of other people's money and resources. Joint resources, taxes, also themes revolving around things that are taboo or the occult. But Jupiter in this house means like, how can I make some extra cash? And so I think for some of you guys who have an online business, or you're thinking about doing a local business, this is the process of kind of like writing it all out and figuring out how you can make that happen. At the time, we see Jupiter and Mercury trine. So this tells me that, you know, the change is really coming from your home front or your emotions or in how you connect to your family. You will see, obviously, Mercury will go retrograde just after this particular new moon. So there's going to be something that's changing about your home front. I could see a lot of Libras moving or making changes, maybe happening to a vehicle, or maybe they're refinancing a vehicle, or there is an opportunity to go deeper in terms of a conversation with a relative. But heated conversations can happen. Be mindful that the squares of Neptune also makes me feel like your schedule's kind of getting away from you a little bit. So if that's happening, it's just important to kind of like let everybody know, hey, I've got a lot going on, like just filling you in. I'll get back to you when I can. It can avoid what can be some heated conversations because people might feel like you're not communicating as well, right? That can definitely be coming up here. But this is a great time to be thinking about how to make change. And there can be important financial documents that can kind of come through here too, with Jupiter in the 8th house. The card that I get for you is the High Priestess, Libra, which is cool because I feel like this is about you being like, okay, I'm aware that these potential miscommunications could come. I'm aware that there can be some hangups maybe with what I'm wanting to get done and what I can get done. And when I think of the High Priestess, I think of Neptune. And I think about what you may potentially miss or what you may potentially overlook. And so the High Priestess is like, hey, I'm aware of that. You know, I can avoid there, you know, being some issues at work or some mistakes in communication or some lost emails or other things. And I love the new moon here in a trine to the North Node as being like, how can I communicate better with people? How can I let people know where I'm coming from and what I'm dealing with? So I'm having less communication issues and less challenges, and you're kind of working out of some of these squares in the 6th house. So, some of you guys are going to be like, I'm booking a trip. You're going to be like, I'm buying a car. I'm buying a gadget. Be very careful with these things or signing anything, okay? Because it might mean that there's something that you're not seeing or there are some scheduling things that you're overlooking. But the High Priestess is saying, tap into that awareness that something might be overlooked and you can prevent that from happening, and better listen to your intuition. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You're going to be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius. This will be taking place in your natal 2nd house of money, resources, and personal possessions. So this is the time, Scorpio, that you do your money manifestation, okay? Every year when you have the new moon in Sag. The 2nd house is also about self-esteem, right? It's about your talent and your skills as well. It is in some interesting aspects. We've got some trines to the North Node, and we've got Mars close by, which is your chart ruler. Essentially, for me, this is saying, like, in order for you to feel the most abundant, it's about productivity, timing, and planning, like organization. Mars in the 2nd house means that there may be some action going on leading up to this new moon where you feel like you have to buy something, make a purchase, make an investment. And we see the trines to the North Node as, well, 6th house things. Some of you guys are like, I'm spending more money on gym equipment. I'm spending more money on healthy food. I'm spending money on some kind of organizer or something that's going to help kind of keep me in order, or spending money on your workspace, right? 6th house. The ruler, which is Jupiter, is in the 7th house. So when you have this new moon, Jupiter in the 7th means that you're taking action in regards to investments and making changes with your physical things or your values because of the guidance, right? Or the support or the advice of another person, 7th house. So it's a good time to like have a financial advisor. It's a good time to have somebody who's looking over your books or your records if you are work independently. It's a good time to ask a partner before spending a large sum of money, or planning a trip or some kind of travel, and really making sure that you're checking in with another person before you're making any moves. Intuitively, you know, I feel like Jupiter's trine to Mercury is about reviewing something. So reviewing travel, reviewing documents, changing direction on something that involves either a car, travel, or a move, or reassessing some money that has potentially been spent. The positive here also, I think, is the fact that, you know, all these trines to the sixth house is saying like work is there, money is there. That's not the problem. The challenge is about getting everything in order. So if you're needing to organize your finances or your resources, it looks like there's a time to find somebody to help you do that, or there is a need to communicate and connect with other people about that. Mercury will retrograde through Sag. That's the other thing. So it's going to come back into this area of your chart. And I feel like this is going to be about looking at how much money you've spent versus how much money you're making, and that might influence a future budget. It also might influence conversations with a partner about how you can make more, save more, or maybe make some changes even to like expenses. So if you have like a client-based business, or you have services, or you sell something, there might be some changes to what you're selling things for. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you, Scorpio. The card that I get is the Nine of Swords, which can be about stress and anxiety. And, you know, in the second house, this is definitely about money and possessions. I'm wondering if the squares to Neptune are about overlooking something or having some anxiety about whether or not you, get in or out of an investment, whether or not you change direction in a creative project, whether or not, you pull money out of something. That can be happening as well. So I'm curious to see what happens when Mars comes into conjunction with this degree, because you may feel like if you're too invested in something, or you're too far ahead in something and you feel like it's time to pull the money off the table before it gets away from you, it might mean that stress or that anxiety about a financial situation gets to the point where you're like, okay, now I'm cutting this off. So watch for that. Know that the Nine of Swords is really about moving through something you don't have any control over. It can feel like you're losing sleep over something as well. And it can also be bringing up some kind of issue where you're feeling like there is fear revolving around some kind of financial situation. Or, right, Jupiter in the seventh, losing a relationship, a disconnect in a partnership, losing a client, fear of being alone. That can be coming up here as well. So there's like a lot of storylines that can happen with planets going through your second house of, well, who am I if I'm not partnered? And who am I if I don't have someone by my side? So you're learning, I think, throughout this transit to reinvest in yourself and really focus on your own self-esteem and building that up rather than feeling like it's dependent on another person. Okay? Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sagittarius, and this is a new moon, new you. I look at that stellium in Sagittarius, and I'm like, boy, oh boy, that is a feisty energy. So new moon in the first house, new opportunities to really focus on what it is that you want to, what goals you want to set for yourself. For your health, for your body, for your appearance, and also for anything that involves you. It's about you. It's not so much about other people right now. Now, with Mars in the mix and the Sun in the first house, it really makes me feel like this is about some of your subconscious emotions and feelings starting to become more present. So there can be this more like passionate, sexy, or like warlike, warrior-like, fitness type energy that's kind of coming through. So there can be a sense of you being like, get out of my way. I'm focused on my goals. I'm super focused on fitness or activity and like going after what I want. It's a great way to use this energy to set intentions for what it is you're hoping to achieve. Mars also rules the fifth house, so it can be about hobbies, children, creativity, or having fun. So you're really adamant about doing this stuff. Jupiter's your ruler. It's retrograde in the 6th. It's going to go direct soon, later in the month. So what you're going to see at the end of December is the effects of some of the moves that you're taking. So if you're going back to the gym, working out, if you are cutting things out of your diet, if you are managing stress, managing anger, frustration, staying active, you're going to see that, you know, like health issues may subside. Issues in regards to work because you've been super productive, like may subside. You might find that suddenly you're employed, or you're noticing that there's more business, or you're more productive. So Jupiter in the 6th house does feel like work, and some more work. And a lot of responsibility for pets can come up here as well, or for taking care of issues in the office. It can also mean that you're working really hard when it comes to staying active and managing what you're eating. But this new moon is great because, like I said, in 6 months' time, you're going to see this come full circle with Jupiter and Venus. And I do feel like this means that you're going to have more time for dating, socializing, friends, and you're probably going to have better health, and you're going to feel like you have a better appearance in 6 months' time if you're wanting to make these changes. The other thing I think about is how Jupiter is in a trine to Mercury. And you'll see just after the new moon, Mercury is going to go retrograde. So when that happens, it means that you're reflecting on, what am I eating? What am I spending money on? What do I value? And it gives you the opportunity to be able to be like, okay, I'm cutting something out, but it's going to be better for me. So to me, this seems like a health or productivity, you know, kind of new moon. The card that I get is the Knight of Pentacles. Productivity, definitely, especially because this can be about Taurus. This can be about some kind of financial news coming. Practical, reliable, stable, ready, efficient, conservative, pragmatic. So maybe the way that you're approaching better balancing your physical body, your goals, what you're hoping to achieve, and also your subconscious desires are all coming full circle. I also think that this is about you taking a slow and steady approach to going after your goals rather than feeling like you have to do everything at one time. Slow and steady wins the race whenever you're dealing with Taurus energy. So take your time, allow these new patterns and habits to kind of settle in. Give yourself about a 6-month goal before you see this come full circle, okay? Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You're going to be experiencing this new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 12th house, which is the subconscious. This is hidden. This is behind the scenes, where you sleep, where you dream, where you meditate. So new moons here can have you feeling like you need to get quiet. You need time to pause and reflect. This can also be a time where you're really focusing on what it is that you are ready to release and let go of. The 12th house transits are happening right before your birthday. So you're getting ready to let something go or clear things out, or maybe you're reflecting on your last year right before you go into, this new year. Now the ruler is Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter down here in your 5th house in a fellow sister earth sign in the sign of Taurus. For me, this looks a lot like you are creating behind the scenes, or you're having some kind of romance behind the scenes, or you're feeling inspired and you're spending a lot of time either traveling, creating, or doing some kind of work that you feel passionate about. Something new is getting ready to emerge that has not been seen yet. And Jupiter in the 5th house makes me feel like it could be a talent, a hobby, a child, a new romantic partner. So these planets, in your 12th house, generally they can make you feel a little squirrely, but the new moon here is about setting intentions revolving around your faith and your belief system, how you're taking time to kind of connect with the cosmos, to manifest things, to meditate. And Mars is there. So it also makes me feel like a lot of this is about traveling or doing some kind of research in your family lineage, or going back and visiting family in another place, or, reflecting on the past before you get ready to kind of move into the future. Some of you guys are definitely dealing with some big storylines revolving around changes on the home front, and it can be with family or in physical spaces. That can be another thing that can kind of be going down. And I'm loving, obviously, you know, Mercury in your sign trine Jupiter. So it's like, even though you're kind of in this season of like releasing something, letting something go, Mercury, and it will go retrograde just after this new moon. Mercury coming into a trine with Jupiter is about being like, okay, well, what am I changing my mind about? Or, you know, what am I shifting in regards to my thoughts or my mood or my habits? And how can I focus on bringing in more joy, more passion, more creativity? So a lot of this is going to be about shifts that are going on with you on a personal level and what you're willing to release so you can focus on what you're willing to gain. And I'm excited to see what some of you guys do behind the scenes, because it might mean that you're feeling inspired to write something, create something, develop something, and maybe it's stemming from some heavier feelings, but it can be something that can be really amazing that you create and kind of put together. The card that I get is the Seven of Swords. So I'm wondering, because this is a card that can be about trusting a situation, whether or not, you know, you can trust something, if there's deception. This can be about somebody getting away with something, dishonesty, strategy, scheming, cunning, or betrayal. Well, relationships are more the moon. And you have the new moon, sun and moon, in the 12th house. There can be about something secretive kind of brewing maybe in a relationship, sure. And Mars being there, but I don't really see it being so much about a partnership per se. I think it's going to be more about something going on with like dealing with past betrayals, maybe where that's created some blockages and being vulnerable and opening up to people. There can be a storyline also about family and where there's some family stuff that's coming out and you're starting to realize that there are some family members that you've got some rifts with, or some people that you're feeling like you're not on good terms with or that you can't trust. Unfortunately, you know, Mars in the 12th house can bring that up. So you're either going to see it through friends or you're going to see it through family, where there is something changing, revolving around who you can trust. So if you have your guard up a little bit, I'm not saying this to make you suspicious, but it would make sense to me, because it seems like your spidey senses are going to be really, really tapped in. And you're going to be aware of the fact that some people that you might be dealing with are not necessarily the best characters to have around. And then while you go through the Mercury retrograde, I think you're going to be kind of like saying to yourself, you know what, I'm going to keep to myself a little bit. I don't really feel like I need to be connecting with some of these people. I'm just going to kind of let this be and see how they handle things. So if there's some reason to feel like there are some characters that are untrustworthy, it would not surprise me given some of these transits. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. Let me take this back actually so we can actually see the moon in Sagittarius. There we go. Okay, so we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You'll be having a Sagittarius new moon, and this will be in your 11th house of goals, friends, and associations. Sagittarius sextiles your ascendant, so it's great for socializing, connecting with other people, having fun, having a good time. And the 11th house new moon is a time where we set intentions or wishes, or we focus on goals. So this can be about spending more time with friends, making new friends, joining some kind of networking group, joining an online group, you know, planning a party, right? These are things that we generally do around a new moon in Sag. Now, at the time of the new moon, we're going to see that there is Jupiter, which is the ruler, in Taurus in your 4th house. So the notes that I have for you is something revolving around spending more time with friends and being able to connect with people from the past, because the 4th house is the past. But it can also be about hosting and celebrating with people, inviting people to come and stay with you, spending time at a friend's house. I think that's really what this is going to be about. Now, Mars is close by in the mix with this as well. So it adds some sense of like urgency or pressure. Or it's gonna be bringing about some kind of action. So I also really like this new moon for those of you guys who are looking to, you know, connect with new groups of people, to network professionally, to be joining groups, so you could be, you know, meeting other people who are going to help you make progress in your career. And these people might be culturally diverse. They might be people from different places. It might be a meeting that you have with other people, more frequently, and anything that's going to allow you to kind of do some networking in a professional way, I think is really what's coming through. I think about how this particular new moon is going to in conjunct or quincunx Uranus, which is your modern day ruler, which means that there's so much kind of energy building, revolving around your goals and your friends and connecting with other people, that very quickly it's pushing you out of your comfort zone, or it's pushing you out of the house. So over the next 6 months, you're probably going to see just so much socializing and connecting with people in other places that some of you guys might be like, we need a bigger living room, or we need to, do something with the outside space so we can start having people over because I'm spending so much time out of the house. How can we bring people here? Some of you guys might consider traveling or relocating to a space where you're connecting more with some of your personal friends, or where you can be joining like groups or associations, especially if you're wanting to get more active or involved in a community. So if you're looking to relocate, it might mean that you're looking at places where you're like, well, where do my friends live? And where am I going to feel like I'm going to have the most connection to other people? I feel like I can get out and about around the neighborhood. After all, this new moon does trine the North Node. So you may find that there's opportunities to suss out different areas, or maybe even do some traveling, so you can kind of get a feeling for where you might be the most comfortable, right? That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. But man, I have a feeling a lot of Aquarius risings are going to be doing so much togetherness with other people that you're going to be like, should we just go and move closer to this city, or should we be joining that like club or whatever, because we see so many people associated with that club in the neighborhood. The card that I get for you is the Devil card. So I'm wondering if this is a combination of either the 12th house retrograde that you're going to be having. You'll have a Mercury retrograde starting in the 12th house. Maybe it means that you have been feeling a little restricted or limited, and you haven't really felt like you've had the time to socialize. Maybe it's Saturn in the 2nd house, where there is a sense of like doubt, limitation in terms of doubt or self-esteem, or some financial hurdles that have been coming up that have been inhibiting you to feel like you can go out and you can socialize. You're trying to save money, or you're trying to focus more on, savings and investing in something that you really want. And you're finding that maybe it's like cutting into your social life, and you've got some people who are kind of pushing you, being like, let's do something. You're going to see so much coming up in terms of friends over the next 6 months, that rather than going rogue and like nobody hearing from you, if that's something you've been doing, one of the best things you can do is just be upfront and be like, look, I don't have the time, or I don't have the capability right now. But the trines that you're seeing to the North Node in the 3rd house is about communicating, telling people what's up. And the inconjunct is like, hey, I can't always be there, but why don't you come to me? So I do think it is going to incentivize you to either create a space or an environment that you feel like can be more conductive, more productive when it comes to socializing or entertaining. But the Devil talks about feeling stuck in some way, right? So if you've been having issues with communication, I think the Mercury retrograde is going to kind of help you reconnect with the right people that you need to reconnect with in your friend zone. And you'll see that play out over the next month. Good luck. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Sagittarius in your natal 10th house. This is all about your professional life and how you're seen out in the world, your reputation. This is the most visible part of the sky. And you got a lot going on here. A new moon conjunct Mars. So you are feeling very motivated, setting intentions in regards to making moves within your career or your professional life. Now, with all the mutable signs, you guys are experiencing some kind of square, but this is definitely a heavier energy for Pisces because it's all squaring from the 10th house. So you might feel like work opportunities are coming at you quick. There's a lot to get done. There's a lot more of going back and forth with people at work. And it can feel like there are some tense situations with Mars being involved. So just be mindful that you might feel like bosses are a little bit more demanding than usual. You might feel like there is more opportunity, though, than usual when it comes to making money as well. Now, the ruler of this particular sign of Sagittarius is Jupiter. That happens to be your co-ruler as well, and Jupiter is hanging out in your 3rd house of communication. So intentions that are being set from this new moon to focus on your career and your professional life and your reputation is all stemming from third house things like communication, networking, being online, having websites, having emails and places that people can connect with you. It is also going to be about learning. So it is possible that maybe you're doing some teaching, maybe you're doing some traveling, maybe you're doing some writing. These are all things that might be popping up for you over the next couple of months as means to be able to further your career and also make more money. This new moon also is going to trine the North Node, which is in your second house of personal possessions and finance. So setting the goals in regards to career flows nicely into Aries in the second house of having money and being more financially sufficient and independent, right, Aries? Now I think about, like I said, how we're going to see this Jupiter-Venus conjunction, and it can definitely bring you a nice chunk of change come next year in regards to blogging or having an online business or something involving education, travel. If you want to have a YouTube channel, if you want to teach somebody something, especially if it's like art or food related, or building related or financially related, these can be topics that you can teach on and kind of talk about. It might be reading tarot cards. It might be talking about astrology, because you've got Jupiter and Uranus there as well. That might be a new line of income. And, this energy is going to flow very nicely with your first house as well. So it really depends on what it is that you're doing. I just know that new moons in the 10th house are really positive for your career. The only challenge is that it is squaring Neptune, and Neptune is also one of your rulers. So it's almost like there's an opportunity to make this big change, but you're asking yourself, like, do I have the energy? Do I have the wherewithal? Is this going to be too demanding for me? Am I sure this is what I want to do? These are all questions I would ask myself. Make sure that you're really capable physically and emotionally to show up for some of these things that you're doing. Because while it can be very lucrative, it can also be where you're going after what's actually making money, but you're like, do I resonate with this? Like, is this what I still want to do? Okay, so it can go one of two ways. I also feel like this is about having your goals met. And a lot of this is because Jupiter and Mercury are in a trine. So we've got Mercury in your 11th house of goals and friendships, and it's trining Jupiter, which is saying like, okay, I'm reevaluating my goals. I'm thinking about what it is I want to do. Maybe this might require you to connect with a group of people or another friend or something to find ways to be able to kind of better make the moves that you're looking to make professionally. Mercury's still going to retrograde through this sign, into Sagittarius, and it's going to square Neptune, and it's going to trine Jupiter. So I would encourage you just to set the intention to be about making moves in a professional sense and some kind of growth. If you're not working and you're somebody who's retired, then it's like, okay, well, what am I doing out in the community? Or like, what am I feeling like my responsibilities are? But for right now, just make it be about making change in the professional sense and bringing in maybe a sense of making money in a way that you feel like is inspiring or that is going to be fun. And give yourself the next month through the retrograde to change jobs, go back to jobs, reevaluate what you do or you don't want to do. And you may find that it's not necessarily about a 9 to 5. It might be about something else that's kind of starting up that you're thinking about doing that eventually can lead to you having more freedom financially, but also in a sense of your time in this next year. The card that I got for you is the Two of Cups, which is cool because I had a feeling you're going to meet with another person. And I don't know if this is because Mercury is going to trine Jupiter, where it's like a group or a friend or a collaborator or something. But Two of Cups is about relationships, partnerships, mutual attraction. It can be about love, connection, close bonds, unity, and joining forces. Now, Mercury rules your 7th house of romantic relationships as well. So I wonder if it's like you're putting your head together with a partner, being like, what can we do? Let's start this other business. Or maybe you're connecting with a friend and saying, hey, I'm looking for a new job. Do you have anything? And they're like, actually, we do. Let me connect you to this person. The name of the game is just going to be about activity, and maybe it's going to be about tapping into socializing and connecting with the right people to help you make the moves that you're looking to make professionally. But I do think you need a little bit of support. You know, the 10th house can be all about managing things, but I feel like right now there's a sense of getting overwhelmed with the idea of doing everything by yourself. But you're going to be a lot more receptive and open to being like, well, can I work with somebody who can help me, or can I do this with another person? So I'm not feeling like I'm the only one who's responsible for carrying this whole project forward. So look for help from another person. I definitely feel like that will help you through some of the mutable squares as well. So that's pretty much the new moon in Sag in a nutshell. Definitely one of the moons this year that I think I'm the most excited about. I feel like it has one of the most potential. So let me know, how are you guys feeling with this new moon? What do you think about the aspects? Are you excited, and how is it aspecting your personal chart? Do let me know. I'm excited to see how this plays out for all of us. You can catch me back here on Thursday. We're going to talk all about Venus moving through the sign of Scorpio. And yeah, don't forget to comment and subscribe so you can keep seeing these videos and help you guys with what's going on at the cosmos. If you guys like my work and you want to book a personal one-on-one reading with me, check out the links in my description below. You can find me at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I do one-on-one sessions with clients live on Zoom. I also have reports and many other things. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So check out my website, and while you're there, sign up for my newsletter. And I'll be alerting you guys when I have new courses coming out, because I teach tarot and astrology as well. All right, with that being said, I'll let you guys go. Enjoy this new moon in Sagittarius. I cannot wait until it arrives. And I will see all of you guys back here soon. Take care.